Leanne Aldrich is a total bitch. Totally. Oh my God. For sure. The minute I walked into French class this morning, she was all, Mama. She's freaking out because I call my mother Mama. And Coach Aldrich was really hard on me in gym class today. He's hard on everybody. He just wants you to reach your potential. He's always calling me gal. Come on, gal. You're not very flexible, are you, gal? So sure. He just smiles at me, gal. Sure, I've reached my potential. Now I just hurt. I love Coach Aldrich, though. Yeah, me too. Too bad his daughter's such a princess bitch. Princess bitch Leanne. That makes sense, because her dad's football royalty. What does that mean? Football royalty. Well, Coach John Aldrich invented the shingle wing offense. Yeah, I don't know what that means. Well, me neither, but it won Iowa State a hell of a lot of football games back in the 60s and 70s. Coaching here is just his retirement job. Well, Leanne wants us all to think that the team's doing so great this year because she makes these monster cookies, giant M&M monster cookies. She makes them for the team on the weekends, and she doesn't eat a single bite herself. Anorexia nervosa. Princess bulimia, big hair. Hey, your hair looks great today. You think? My hair's always having such a spaz. I can't get it to stand up in the back like yours. Hey, listen. I got to pass you a note about Leanne and Dan. Dan? Love of my life? Love of my life. You won't believe what Leanne did with Dan in science class today. It was the 80s. I was a teenager, and like what seemed to be everyone else, my parents also divorced in 1975. But my mama moved to Saudi Arabia, and I was a student at Northern University High School in Cedar Falls, Iowa, with Leanne Aldrich, that girl. Leanne was a cheerleader, of course, and she was really skinny and always wore the right clothes and never had a greasy face or lack of designer clothes, lipsticks, perfumes. She was everything I wanted to be. I had big red hair, an oily rosacea-cursed face, walked like a duck, had zero athletic talent, and wore Rigoletto jeans from Kmart. Leanne's dad, Coach Aldrich, was an inspiration. I spent one summer running 2 miles every day and stretching my muscles so that I could get my palms flat on the floor when bending over to touch my toes, and I couldn't wait to show Coach Aldrich that autumn. And he did notice. You won't regret getting strong, gal. You should join the swim team. They lift weights in the morning. I did. I was the slowest competitive backstroker in the history of Northern University High School, but I was strong and I felt amazing. But Leanne was never impressed with me. And she was always trying to get something on me, like when she found out about my crush on Dan. She confronted me in the lobby between classes. Hey, why'd you call me a bitch? And she tells me in front of her tiny-waisted other cheerleader friends that she's intercepted notes between me and Lori Alexander, notes about what a bitch Leanne is, and notes about how much I miss my Riyadh-based mama, and notes about what Lori and I would like to do alone with Dan Glasscock. I'll give you a minute. Dan Glasscock's brother, seriously, this is all true. Dan Glasscock's brother, Matt Glasscock, sang in a band called the Glasscocks and the Ceramic Penises. And Dan sang with them sometimes. He played football. He was captain of the team. He was a total Renaissance man because he, like me, played the violin and sang like Robert Plant. And I was horrified that Leanne had come across these notes because now she had all the ammunition she needed to keep me in an awkward state of nerddom all the days of my life. By my junior year in high school, when I forgot all about Dan Glasscock, it was all about Tony Moore. Princess bitch Leanne was Tony Moore's date to prom, and I would never grow up, I would never get married, and I would never have children, and it was all her fault. But I did grow up. I went to college. studied acting. I moved to New York City. I did Est. The only thing I hadn't done was give my mama a grandchild and an in-law apartment. This is not manscaping. I'm a designer, an artist. I'm the guy you want to do your tattoo because you know I'm the best. This trimming I do here, I do for me. Well, sort of. When I do it, I think about the ladies. The truth is, the ladies, they don't see this. The ladies, they don't come home with Bobby too much these days. So I'm working this construction crew in the Philly area, and I'm stuck in Pennsylvania because the sheriff back in Ohio asked me to comply with the sundown law and leave my life back there. My life being my kid, her mama, and 2 ex-girlfriends. That's 3 ladies and 1 child for those of you just catching up. Now my kid, my Allison, she means the world to me. So you can imagine I'm pretty blue when the sheriff back in Ohio says I'm not allowed back for 5 years. Yeah, I'm a badass. Not here to talk about that, though. My kid's mama, well, we just can't live together. So the kid ain't going to be with me here in PA. Now, the foreman of my construction crew, Bill, it's like he can see inside my head filled with all these problems. And for some strange reason, he wants to cheer me up. He says, hey, how about I get you a date? What kind of women do you like? I say I like them redheaded, plump, and really smart. But ladies aren't exactly big fans of mine. Bill says, you're kidding. I say, no, ladies don't clamor to get Bobby alone. He says, no, the redheaded smarty pants thing, I know the girl. Turns out, this girl, like every other woman in my life, ain't that easy. She's an actress, living in New York City. She's got a one-woman show coming up, and she doesn't have time for a tattooed badass with a kid. Doesn't matter, the kid doesn't live with me. Kid's a deal breaker, she says. Bill says, Margaret, meet Bobby. Margaret says, no. Bill says, Margaret, he's really good looking. I do all right in the looks department. Margaret says, nuh-uh. Bill says, Margaret, come to Philly, meet Bobby. Margaret says, Bill, I'm busy, leave me alone. Bill says, Margaret, Patty likes him. Now, Patty is Bill's wife. Picture Grace Slick with a lot more class. And Patty, among other magical people in Bill's community, is regarded as a great judge of character. Margaret says, Bill, you buy me a ticket, I'll be there next Friday. Bill buys a ticket. So, I'm shaving everything here into the shape of a arrow pointing to the area of interest. Not because I think this actress is going to want to see me naked, but it'll give me something to chuckle about when things get awkward. My little secret. Margaret, she shows up, and she is everything Bill said she would be. Redheaded and a smartass. She tests me right off the bat. Have you read anything lately? Well, I just finished the Bhagavad Gita. Now, I don't know what happened. She starts tearing my clothes off, and then I remember... I told her it was Bill's idea. But then she sees not only this, everything. I get keys to Margaret's apartment. I move in. She arranges for my kid and her mother to live in a house upstate. I'm shanghaied. I fell in love with Bobby and Allison on site. Soon, 15-month-old Allison was living with us in our studio apartment for longer and longer periods of time and visiting her mother for shorter periods that didn't always go so well. And I could tell that Allison had it rough with her mother, and it made her a little different. Now, the daycare workers said she was weird. She was rough and liked to talk real close to the faces of other friends, and she also had a tendency to disassociate. You'd say to her, "Hey, Allison, you gonna finish that broccoli?" And she'd say, "I like Fairly Odd Parents." To the daycare workers, I said, "Leave her alone. She's been through a lot. Her mother likes to pretend she's invisible, and Allie is just a survivor." So one morning, I was dropping off Allison at the daycare, and it was really early, and Allison immediately tore off her coat and ran across the room to the only other kid there, a boy, shouting at the top of her lungs, "Fucko! Hey, Fucko! Fucko!" I began to sweat. I knew the daycare workers were just going to start in on me again, and I started to think, I really shouldn't call Bobby by his pet name, Fucker, in front of Allison. And just then, she throws her arms around this tiny little guy and buries her face in his little neck, saying, "Oh, Fucko." And I'm panicked, and finally, calmly, one of the daycare workers says, "Yes, Allison, Franco's here today." No one tells you, no one will tell you that parenting is two phenomenons happening at the same time all the time. Every day is loaded with joy, and every day is a total heart attack. And many days, I felt like I was going to lose myself entirely. And there's always someone there judging your every move. Eventually, Allison's mother had a hard break with reality. And we woke up to the fact that if Allison was going to grow up safe and happy, then we needed to take full responsibility for this little person, legally. We have very limited resources. I had some legal skills, and Bobby had raw determination. And in the stress of it all, we fought a lot. We never had that mad, crazy love honeymoon that people get in the raw beginnings of their relationships, and honestly, we missed that. But when the family court battle was over and the law guardian looked me in the face and said, "You're the mommy. You're the mommy now," I felt a little disoriented. But shortly after that, Allison looked up at me without any prompting and said, "Mama." And so I grabbed hold of my fate, and I just kept repeating the mantra, "I'm the mommy now. I'm the mommy now." I got a good, steady job at a bank. Bobby got tattoo work as an artist in the village here in the city. And I became a full-time mommy while still pursuing the ever-elusive acting career. "Hi, Mrs. Katz. Can I sit down? I know that we don't have an appointment, but you're my agent, and you need to understand me." For years, when people heard that this actress had to be a secretary to pay her bills, they would look at my waistline and, of course, would appear in their eyes. But this year, you're sending me out on these wonderful auditions for those really juicy character roles. Finally, the mom, the weird sister, the wacky neighbor, the crazy best friend, finally! But now, they're telling me I'm not fat enough. I'm not ugly enough. I'm quite fit, actually, and they were looking for somebody flabbier. Last Wednesday, they just busted out laughing. "Oh, far too pretty. Next." Are they shitting me? What did I miss? When did I go from too fat to not thin, from too fat to not, whatever it is? Like, when did this happen? I look exactly the same. I'm the same weight I was 10 years ago. When did I get too tall? I'm the dwarf child of my family. My brother is 6'4". My sister's 6'1" and looks like Uma Thurman. No, she's a nurse practitioner. No, she doesn't have any talent for acting. Yes, I'm sure. No, it's not jealousy. Look, this is me. This is about me. I'm your vessel, damn it, and I am better than all these snippets who shuffle in and out of this office with stars in their eyes and their plastic smiles, because I am tougher. I don't back down from the work, and you need to get on that phone and find out who in this town is looking for me, because somebody is. Somebody's looking for me exactly the way I look right now, and I just can't believe that they're not, and it's your job to find out who that is. Thank you, Mrs. Katz. Thank you. Really, I have a child to feed. Hello. Is Dr. Glasscock there, please? Yeah, I'll hold. Hi, Dan, it's Leanne. Hey, I just wanted to thank you for the flowers you sent and your lovely card. Yeah. Services are going to be this Thursday. Thanks, honey. He loved you too. Well, it's hard. It's really hard, and people are just calling the house, and they're crowding in, and I just want to be with my real friends and family right now. You know, I know he was a legend to them, and he meant something to them, but I don't feel like sharing. He was my dad. He was my dad. Oh, thanks for saying that. You're a real friend. I love you. Hey, you know who wrote me? Margret did. Yeah, Echeverria. Well, she's an actress in New York City now. She was so sweet. She told me how much my dad loved me and how much she appreciated my dad, and she called me a sweetheart. Quit it. I am too. I am now, anyway. It's funny, isn't it? We're all grown-ups now. Sometimes, while raising Allison and figuring out how to be in a relationship with a man full-time, I secretly missed my old single life. Picture it. The East Village, 1996. I am a beautiful young redhead who's just completed the Landmark Forum's curriculum for living. And I'm at a party thrown by a fellow Landmarkian wherein there is much self-expression by people who are off their rackets and being their possibilities. While sipping delicious punch. And one of the most self-expressed revelers at this party is Mr. David Rubbarg, who has just finished the Self-Expression and Leadership program, wherein we all discovered that he, Mr. Dave Rubbarg, has an amazing singing voice. Given that this is 1996, a karaoke machine at a party is a rare thing. But a boombox loaded with a cassette is not. So Dave is standing in the middle of the living room, singing, surrounded by a huge circle of admirers of his newfound self-expression. And I, too, am impressed. And sipping delicious punch. And eating really most excellent smoked weenies. And looking for a husband. Because at this point, my mama was calling twice a day. You, my dear, are not getting any younger. And I don't know why you let yourself get so plump. You're bloated, Margaret. And you look anemic. You need to eat a burger and be in bed every night by 10 o'clock. Not out at Splash with your fags. You're taking way too long to get a straight man to look your way, and your looks will not last forever, you know. Don't you know how to hook a man? Make him stay? You're my daughter. You're obligated to remember what I tell you. When you have sex, when you do, the hook is the frenulum. Ah, frenulum. My God, the frenulum. Hello? Hello? That's my girl. My mother, ladies and gentlemen. So the party and Dave Rudberg and the singing and the delicious punch and the smoked weenies. Dave is lovely, sweet, and large and sweaty and smart. And I have a different picture in my mind, my less than mature mind for the perfect husband. But I'm not so oblivious and cold as to not notice when Dave, in between serenades to the party at large, ever so gently hits on me. So, what are you looking for in a mate?
Someone who can keep up with me, someone who loves me when I'm ugly, and someone who wants children whose numbers make a baseball team.
That was me, 1996. Would you ever consider me as a partner?
Oh no, Dave, I wouldn't consider you as a partner, but you know, you're really great and you have so much going for you, and hey, is that onion dip? Chocolate cake? No way. Hey, refill on the punch, please.
And suddenly it hits me. Not that maybe I should look at Mr. Dave Rudberg a little more closely. No, I'm just a dumb kid. What hits me is that this punch is not made with rum or vodka. This punch is really, really, really loaded with grain alcohol. I gotta go home. I gotta get out of here. It's 1996, and the last express bus from the East Village to Bay Ridge, Brooklyn, left hours ago. Sweet Jesus. Hey, hi, I'm Dave Rudberg's brother. You need a ride home? I'm taking a couple of folks home now. You want to ride?
Yes! Sweet Jesus, yes, I'm afraid I've gotten very suddenly and terribly drunk.
That's okay, I'll take care of you.
You're Dave Rudberg's brother?
Yep. So I load into this car, loaded with other Landmarkians who, by virtue of their estiness, have so much integrity, so I have nothing to worry about. And it's a long way from the East Village to Bay Ridge, Brooklyn, and my head gets fuzzier and fuzzier, and I start to see halos around the streetlights, and one by one, people get out of the car, and pretty soon it's just me and Dave Rudberg's brother as we pull up in front of my rented brownstone on Bay Ridge Avenue between 4th and 5th Avenues in his Trans Am. And I thank you so much, Dave Rudberg's brother. And I open the door, and a whole hell of a lot of chocolate cake, onion dip, smoked weenies, and a bunch of grain alcohol makes its way out onto the street. Not a drop in the Trans Am, because I grew up in the 80s, people. Respect for the Pontiac muscle car.
Oh my God, I'm so embarrassed.
Hey, I'm Dave Rudberg's brother. I won't tell anybody about this. I'm a good guy.
That is so nice of you.
For the next hour, I'm on my shower floor asking myself, how did this happen? Dear God, how did this happen? And for the next 18 years, I don't tell anyone of this incident until one night in the East Village at a party where there's a bunch of old SD Landmarkians hanging out. I say to my friend Michael, hey, do you remember that party in the 90s, the grain alcohol punch? I got so drunk. And Dave Rudberg's brother drove me home. He was such a nice guy. He never told anybody how drunk I was. And Michael says, Margaret, Dave Rudberg doesn't have a brother? Okay, so one of my first acts as Allison's mommy was I told her a lie. Now, people argue and they say it wasn't really a lie. But I say, well, I told her something that wasn't true, and I said it like it was a fact, so that's a lie. You see, when I was growing up, my mama told me everything, and I mean everything straight up. Allison is never going to hear about the frenulum from this mama. All I told Allison was that the moon was hers. We were out walking one night, and I just said, hey, Allison, look, there's your moon. And it gave her so much pleasure. She was about 3 at the time. So one warm summer night, we're taking a little walk, and she looks up into the sky, and she says, look, Mama, there's my moon.
I want to fly, fly, fly like a butterfly right to the moon.
Oh, would you stay there? Or Mama would miss you. Or do you think you might just visit?
Oh, I would visit. And then I would fly, fly, fly back home to you and Papa.
I picked Allison up into my arms, and she gazed over my shoulder at her moon. The woman walking behind us, whom we didn't know, burst into tears. She said it was the sweetest thing she'd ever heard a kid say. Well, Allison is the most sentimental child I've ever met. I'm working as a tattoo artist in the village. And Allison is getting way too smart for her britches. Margret has a film written about her in which she is to play the starring role. But at the 11th hour, the role was recast with Mindy Cohn, Natalie from the Facts of Life. Apparently, Margret was too pretty to play herself in the movie loosely based on her own life. She's devastated for a while. But then she comes up with an idea. She says, let's have a baby. And no sooner does she say it, but Margret is pregnant. Margret is spooky sometimes. My son, my beautiful son, Gavin, Xavier, Expedite Cimarelli, is born November 3rd, 2011. We did good. He was really cute. Perfectly healthy. Allison slipped into big sister mode like a pro. We had everything going for us. Christmas Eve, we were up at Margaret's mama's house in Connecticut where she'd finally settled. About 3:30 in the morning, after building the Barbie dream house next to the Christmas tree, we're saying goodnight to Gavin. Hugging him, kissing him, telling him we love him, snuggling him. Christmas morning, he didn't wake up. I knew infant CPR. I tried everything. We called the paramedics. We held on to Allison so tight as they took our son away to the hospital. We met them there, and they pronounced our son dead. Margret turned to me and said it had only been 51 days. Ashes. He became ashes. And we brought his ashes home in a cardboard box, and people gathered around us, not knowing what to do, what to say. And we just held on to each other, sinking together. Leanne Aldrich, that tough old bitch from Margaret's school days, private messages us on Facebook. She says her mama lost a baby to SIDS back when nobody talked about this. She couldn't get out of bed. Refused to carry on raising her 3 surviving children, and for 5 years, it looked like that family wasn't going to make it. But then Coach John Aldrich and Mrs. Aldrich adopted a new baby girl. Light came back into that house. She gave them hope. She saved them. Don't give up hope, Leanne says. Don't just curl up and die. Somebody's going to need you. Margret says, ain't that bitch something else? I don't think she has any idea how much Margret loves her. Margret is like Leanne's mom was right now. She even said she wanted to die. Just go be with Gavin, wherever he is. And I felt that too. But neither one of us would do that to Allison. We can't do that to Allison. We can't adopt. It's my fault. It's complicated. Margaret says, no, it's society's fault. But the bottom line is nobody's going to give us a baby. And we can't replace Gavin. But we would like to get another baby into our lives. And we're trying. We got Gavin on the first try. And this time it's just taken a little longer. And frankly, Margaret's getting a little harder to love. I mean, I love her, but fuck, it's hard! Bobby, I feel like I'm losing my mind. Bobby, he was on his face. He was very nearly on his face. What? What are you trying to say? Just tell me. I'm saying, what if he suffocated? What if you put him down wrong? Are you saying I killed my son? Are you saying I killed my son? I did not kill my son! No! I'm not saying that. I'm saying, what if we did something wrong? I didn't want him to be in that chair while we were sleeping. What if it was just an accident? He was comfortable in that chair. It was the only place he wasn't miserable, and I had him propped on his side. I did not kill my son. I'm not saying it was your fault. I'm saying I should have told you not to do that. I should have said something. Margaret, listen to me. He was strong enough to raise himself up. And if he was uncomfortable, he would have raised himself up and he would have cried out and you would have heard him. But I was so tired that night. I was so tired. What if he struggled and I didn't hear him? Oh, God! Margaret, stop it!
Mommy? Daddy? What's happening?
Mommy and Daddy are having a discussion, Allison. Everything's okay. Just go back to bed. If we had done something wrong, if our boy had suffocated, they would have told us that. They would have been able to see that. He would have had broken capillaries around his nose and his mouth, and they would have told us that so we wouldn't be so stupid as to do it with the next one. It was Sid's. Sid's! He just stopped. My God, woman, you need to stop. I did not kill my son.
Daddy? Daddy?
Bobby lay down on the floor at the foot of our bed and sobbed. After a long while, he allowed me to put his head in my lap. Allison lay her hand on her father's heart.
Daddy? Oh, Daddy, I don't think you killed my baby brother.
She lay down next to him, curling her body into his. Several moments passed. Here I was, blaming Bobby, and I could be the one to blame. I was supposed to be on a strict diet while I carried our boy, and I didn't always stick to it. I ate these brownies one time. There in the dark, I could see the light of the moon coming through the window and shining in Allison's eyes. From there, on the floor, she was watching everything.
Mama?
Yes, baby.
Mama, there's my moon. My baby brother's on the moon.
Is it his moon now? Is it not your moon anymore?
I think we can share it.
It feels like you won't survive it. And it's a terrible feeling. But it's a lie. There's just no formula to it. Several months after Gavin died, I was standing in line at the bank behind this redheaded woman who had her hair pinned up in this really whimsical way. She was traveling a road less traveled, you know what I mean? And Buster was with me. Thank God for that dog, because I can tell my 7-year-old living daughter I'm not getting out of bed today. But Buster will have none of it. It is Buster who gets me out into the sun every day. So this woman with the red hair and the pins, she's really attracted to Buster. And without even asking, she just reaches down and begins to massage him. He's a pit bull. She doesn't give a shit. She's just massaging his sleek, muscled body. Ooh, he's blocked in here. I used to be a deep tissue massage therapist. You should work on this for him. Thanks. I will. Oh, if only we treated our children as well as we treat our pets. I do treat my children as well as I treat my pets. Oh, how many children do you have? There it is. And I find myself telling her, I have one little girl here on earth and a baby boy in heaven. Oh, sweet Jesus, I see it. And without even asking, she reaches out and she begins massaging my shoulders. And I'm thinking, this bitch is really crazy, but this feels so good. And I begin to relax this shoulder I didn't even know was riding way too high on my body. Ooh, how old was he? Was he baptized? No, he was only 7 weeks old. He was not baptized. Ooh, you must find a priest. You must find a priest right away and have him baptized post-mortem. Otherwise, he's just in limbo waiting for you and around you, making you sad. He's waiting. I was having a good day. It was a Tuesday. I didn't have to go to work that day. My bills were paid. The sun was shining. I was with my happy dog, and she says that to a grieving mother at the bank. And I think, bless her heart. She thinks she's helping. She has no idea the horror she's placing on me. I'm just going to let this go, I tell myself. She's just loving me. But that afternoon was really dark. And it's not that I believe what she was saying. My boy is not in some limbo waiting for me. But those feelings, those thoughts, if I just held him all night, I would have known and I could have saved him. If it hadn't been so cold that night, if we hadn't put him down, if I had just checked on him earlier, if I had run the humidifier, if I had been a better mother, I would not have found my boy dead that morning. Everyone had something to say, questions to ask. I'm an RN who was commissioned by the King of Saudi Arabia to work in his hospital, and I know what I'm talking about. Something is wrong here. Babies don't just die on their own, Margaret. Margaret, why didn't you just start from the beginning and tell me again what happened? Well, was it just an accident? Did he suffocate? Did you have him wrapped up in some kind of a blanket? I don't understand. My mother said the worst pain is the mystery, the not knowing. Listen to me, it's not your fault. Listen, it's not your fault. Did you ask? Did you ask the medical examiner if he thought maybe somebody did something to Gavin? I know you and Bobby loved him, but you need to ask that. You know, if somebody tattoos their whole body like that, well, maybe you should look at that. Babies' feet are supposed to retract when you tickle them. Did you tell them that I told you that? Did you tell them that I never liked his color? There's no mystery here, not to me. No, don't go down that hole. Don't think those thoughts. It was his time. If the doctors had noticed that something was wrong, they would have told you that. I know it's hard to come to peace with the mystery, but my parents did. They did. It's not your fault. I can teach you how to grieve. I know how to do that. I can get you through this, Margaret. You need to start to listen to your mama. Now, let me tell you something. You're not acting right.
You don't know what you're doing. You're being very, very selfish right now. And if you're not going to start to listen, then you need to leave and don't come back because I can't take it. Families fall apart over this. SIDS is just a code word for we're sorry. We don't know what happened to your baby. He just stopped. And your family is going to have trouble accepting that mystery. They're going to try to solve that unsolvable mystery. And they're going to look for someone to blame to solve that unsolvable mystery. And some of them may never speak to you again because they think it's your fault. And some of them will feel so guilty for thinking that for even a minute that they can't bear to look at you again. So find that thing in you. Find that thing that's bigger than the mystery that you can hang on to. Find that thing, gal. And when you do, look outside yourself for others who understand. And those others may not be your family. So, here's the thing about Jesus. It's me. Did you really think I wasn't going to bring Jesus into it? You see, this experience has really bumped me up against what I believe. I felt my grandmother Rosa in the room hours before Gavin died. It was her. And it was a good, peaceful feeling. It was like she was just checking in. And for days after he died, the question that haunted me most was, where is he? Where is he really? And what do I believe about that? And something I could choose to believe was that my Aunt Maria, who I always thought of as my guardian angel and who died 1 week after giving birth to a baby boy in 1982, just scooped up my Gavin when he arrived there. But where is there? Is there a there? And what the fuck is there? Weeks after Gavin died, I was sitting on the back stoop of my house. And I cried out to the trees I spent my days staring at, where is he? Where is he? And clear as a bell, I heard Rosa, my memo, my red-headed, grapefruit-loving, surviving mother of 2 dead infants of her own, say, we've got him, darling. What was that? It was a moment of peace followed by, I am fucking insane. And it could be insanity. I'll give you that. But just come along with me on this for just a minute. My junior high school Baptist Sunday school teacher told us that if you weren't saved, you didn't get to go be with Jesus when you died. No party for you. Even unsaved babies go to hell. And at the time, I thought that was ridiculous. But when my beautiful boy was gone, those words repeated themselves in my head over and over and over again. What if Gavin went to hell? What was true? What? But then, I remembered that story about Jesus when he was on his Wandering Jew New Greatest Hits speaking tour. And the disciples are shooing away the children, and Jesus is like, hey, what are you doing? Suffer the little children unto me. Now, as much as I hadn't really wanted to be in the presence of a Baptist preacher since junior high school, I asked a young Baptist minister to give the message at Gavin's memorial. And he read those verses for me. And they were a comfort. And Bobby dealt with it. That preacher said to us, with pleading in his eyes, of course Gavin's with Jesus. Of course he is. But here's the problem with Jesus. And maybe this is just a Western thing, but we assign Jesus this gross human attribute of just wanting to take our pain away. And every human being I have met since I've had this loss has wanted nothing more than to just lift this pain away from me, to redeem me somehow.
I've been offered whiskey, sex, vacations, skydiving, Valium, antidepressants. And I know these offers come from love. And Christians say that God so loved the world that he gave us Jesus, the divine Redeemer. But the Western version of redeeming really means defending yourself from going through something. I've found, this is just me, I've found that joy and sadness are here all the time for everyone. And having that is what it is to be alive, to be able to be there for others, to truly listen to their telling of their experience without a stake in it. And I prefer that. This sharing of our humanity. I don't want to be redeemed, to be numbed to it, to have my experience lifted away, because when the numb wears off, my pain is still here, no matter how good your whiskey, sex, and Jesus are. I just want to be loved in it, not away from it. Margaret, I lost my son too. Here's what you do. You get up every morning, you take your antidepressants, and you live your life. That was my first day back at work. And all I could hear was, shut up. Stop indulging this grief in public and just stand strong against this. And there's value in that. There is. You can go a long way with that attitude. But antidepressants don't work for grief. It's just a different animal. And too soon, again, I can't deal with your dry resolve that I just look ahead because I can't see what's in front of me. It's so goddamned unrecognizable. My future is unrecognizable. Margaret, have you been reading the Tibetan Book of the Dead to your son's spirit? Do you know about that? You got to get that. The Tibetan Book of the Dead is required reading for the first 49 days of your loved one's passing. It guides the spirit through the journey consciousness takes when the soul leaves the body. Well, of course, I knew about that because they hand out those guidelines with every Metro card. But, she was comforted by this act of reading to her son. She was doing something. She was guiding him through those first 49 days of death. But she told me about this when Gavin had been dead for 60 days already, so that was out. Being raised Baptist gave me a starting point of reference. And at that starting point, Jesus was the Son of God. So as you wander with me, just one more minute. Just pretend that you believe that Jesus died and God was his parent. Losing a child is excruciating. So I began to think that maybe my God is just making more of a connection with my humanity. He's saying, hey, I feel you, sister. This sucks. I'm not redeemed. I'm connected. And every parent I've met who's had this loss, that's what I hear in the deepest well of my being. I understand how you're feeling. And then I see God right there in front of me, in them, in you. We all want relief from this pain. We all do. But the truth is, a surviving parent doesn't get that. We don't even get through it. So we make room for it. We place people in our lives, objects, events in the future, so that we can tolerate this memory, this hole, this broken heart. And this is my gift, my tool for connecting with you. Two days before Gavin died, we were in the emergency room at Southington Hospital in Connecticut. 2 days before Christmas it was. Just a case of thrush was making him a little uncomfortable. And while we were waiting to see the doctor, the nurse came around and offered us a blanket, which she took out of this giant metal rolling heater. And as we put the blanket around Gavin, we could tell that this bliss and pleasure just washed over him. His little fingers spread out over the top of that blanket, and the warmth just felt, oh, so good to him. He was only 49 days old. And this memory is so vivid for me. Now, almost 2 years later, I'm thinking of this at the breakfast table, and my eyes go wet with thinking, like they do when Allison, who doesn't miss anything, says, "Are you thinking about my baby brother?" Yes. I know, I can read your mind. Well, it's good to remember him. Yep. So that afternoon, we're walking Buster together, and Allison is riding her scooter, and the strap on her bicycle helmet is broken, so she's not wearing a helmet, but she's being really careful, just sort of gliding up gentle hills and gently gliding down. But at the end of the walk, she goes up beyond our house, up this really high hill, up where the Catholics live. And it's a little too high, it's a little too far. I should say no. Now, I don't have balls, but if I did, they would have shot right up into my throat as she comes barreling down that hill at top speed, loses control, forgets she has brakes, falls off the scooter, goes sliding along the asphalt, carried by her momentum, putting a horrible gash above her right eye. She screams. She never screams. And so here we are at Lawrence Hospital in Bronxville in the highly air-conditioned emergency room. Now, Allison is some kind of pissed off when they tell her that she needs stitches. That needle's coming nowhere near her face. "Take me home, Mommy. I don't want this to happen." It takes 4 nurses, 2 of them brutes, to hold her down while the plastic surgeon runs 4 stitches through her brow. "Mommy!" Afterwards, Allison lay cold and defeated on that hospital table. I went to the front desk and I asked for a blanket. And they brought her one of those giant metal rolling heaters. My eyes fill right up as Allison snuggles into the warmth of that blanket. "Are you crying?" "Yes." And I'm thinking about Gavin. And I'm thinking about all these fertility treatments we're going through, all these crazy blood tests at 7 a.m, and all of these drugs and this fucking when we're so fucking tired, boring, clinical, not so fun fucking, all so that we can just bring one more soul into this world. And Bobby, I love you so much for putting up with this insanity just so that we can heal and complete this family. Mommies get a little sad when their children get hurt sometimes, I say to Allison. And as I bend down and rub my nose against her nose, my sweet little girl on that hospital table, I think, this child is enough. This child is a gift. Of course I want more. I want Gavin back. I want my baseball team. But I want more, knowing that we're enough, just as we are. Dear Gavin, before you were born, your mama and I were making out in the NYU radiology lab like a couple of teenagers at the library and crying. Well, she was crying. Okay, we were both crying, but we were scared because your brain was developing left and right at different rates there for a minute. And they invited us back into the image room to look at pictures of your brain. And that's when I saw your whole head in layers, son. And that's when we knew you were going to be okay. You were a tough little guy. You'd worked it out in there. And your mom and I, we were so in love with you that we just couldn't keep our hands off each other. A couple months later, Your mama was getting pretty big because you were getting ready to come out. And she decides to go to this party. And you, by virtue of being inside me, were coming along to this bohemian show at this little cafe that I used to love to go to when I could fit down the stairwell. And we were waiting for the Metro North train. And of course, there had been a storm, and suddenly the announcer comes on and he says, there's not going to be another train for hours. So I'm texting for someone to come pick us up, and that's when the really terrible thing happens.
You see, little bro, when I go with Mama on the train, she lets me play with everything in her purse so that I don't get bored and start running around. She's got her phone in there, iPod with movies on it, hand sanitizer that smells like flowers. But I wasn't with her that night.
When I looked up from my phone, there was a teenage boy with a 9mm Glock in Mommy's face. Give me everything. I gasped. You were petrified. You were pushing out at all sides like a starfish, as if to say, what the fuck? You see, I'm a realist. I've seen some shit. I told your mama, if you're ever confronted with a gun, just know you're going to get shot. But also know that that shot probably won't kill you. You just fight and get away. But since when has your mama ever listened to me? I was thinking of you. We could not get shot. And even though he was skinny and I could probably have taken him, you might not have survived that. And I couldn't lose you. So that's when my fear turned into anger. And I said, I won't give you everything, but I'll give you all my money. That's how crazy Irish your mother is, mouthing off to a kid with a gun.
Mama's a bad... Oh, okay, not supposed to say ass.
As I pulled my money out of the wallet, that's when the angel appeared. That angel yelling down from the parking garage, hey, are you bothering her? And that boy was so smooth, he pulled his mask down as he turned to face her. No, I'm not bothering her. We're just talking. As he was turned away, I gestured to her. Him, gun. Him, gun. You better not be bothering her. I'm a cop. I'm coming down there. I'm coming after you. No cop calls themselves a cop. I thought, if he knows this, we are in such big trouble. But it was enough. It was enough to scare him away. And when the real cops came, your mama was still holding that wad of cash in her hand. Now, I love this woman, but what is in this purse? What was she protecting?
Lipstick. Eyeshadow by Urban Decay. Space Cowboy. And little slices of apple with cinnamon sprinkled on them.
They rushed you to the hospital. Your mama, she's amazing. She got your heart rates down to normal on that monitor, and the doctor said everything was going to be okay. And just a couple weeks later, you demanded your grand entrance into the world 5 weeks early. Typical Scorpio. Went for the instant gratification of a C-section. And on your way out, you bit the doctor's finger as if to say, out of my way, I have living to do. But 51 days later, as we prepared to celebrate God's entrance into the world as a man, you inexplicably left this world as our beloved and longed for.
You were my awesome little bro. Mom says the moon is mine. I say I share it with you. And I'm going to meet you there someday.
That first Christmas without you, I just wanted to drown myself in a bottle of Jack. But your mama said we had to go to the Caribbean pool shop where they bring fresh-cut trees from Vermont every year. And we bought an 8-foot juicy tree from those guys, and they thought your sister was really special.
They gave me a Santa Claus windsock that year. And last year, they gave me a stuffed reindeer. And this year, you know what they gave me? A Christmas tree ornament with a baby on the moon. They probably didn't even know it was you. I miss you, little dude.
Seeing your sister's face light up like that, I'll buy a tree from those guys every year. For you, for your mama, for your sister, I love you, little man. You are a miracle, my son. I saw the millions of years of humanity that came before you in your face. SIDS, they called it. Sudden infant death syndrome took you from me and your sister and your daddy. We love you so much, Gavin, Xavier, Expedite, Cimarelli. Thank you for the 51 days. They were the best of my life.
Close your eyes, have no fear. The monster